Yes, it's a very beautiful afternoon. Welcome to Kaftan TV. The program is the Polity. The Polity is a program of the Kaftan TV where we take a look at trending national issues. The one for today on security, national security, has been in the news on a daily basis since 2010. When insurgency began in Nigeria. Today, what are we going to be looking at? We are going to talk about a very serious national problem that has remained intractable. One that governments at all levels, including security agencies and so many bodies, set up many years ago to try and find a solution to it, have not yielded much fruits in terms of efforts. We'll be talking about proliferation of small arms and light weapons. Yes, those illicit weapons, deadly weapons that are in wrong hands. Now, according to the UN Regional Center, about 700 million of such out of about 70% of the 500 million illicit weapons in wrong hands are said to be situated in Nigeria, meaning that the whole of West African sub-region, 70% of the small arms and light weapons in circulation, 70% of them are in Nigeria. In fact, another estimate puts it at 350 million of weapons that are unregistered, unaccounted for, in the hands of non-state actors and even criminal elements. Over the years, efforts to recover these arms have remained without much fruits, have not yielded much results. So that is why today you hear of herdsmen attack, young militants or herdsmen or even bandits carrying AK-47, some even pump action gun and so many others. That's why we have criminal elements like armed robbers and even kidnappers running riot on our streets and in the bushes with sophisticated weapons. What are we doing about it? What are the security agencies doing about it? What are the solutions? And for those that have been affected over the years, everybody is impacted. There are many villages in the northeast and northwest that are desolate now as a result of attacks. But we must equally give it to our security agencies. They're doing a yeoman's job in the past couple of years. A number of these bandits have been neutralized, while weapons have been collected from them or seized from them. Now, how do we ensure that some of these weapons are mopped up to the extent that we can have a safer country and a safer community? That's what we shall be looking at today on the program, The Polity. My name is Segun Ojelade. I'm going to be joined by some guests on these experts, if I must say, on this program. One of them is already on Zoom, and his name is Dr. Kabir Mato. He's a security expert and a known face in public circles and on TV and radio, talking about security issues. Dr. Mato, if you can hear me, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon, Segun. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Thank you for joining us on the program this afternoon.
Thank you very much, Segun.
Yes. Now, Dr. Mato, you've you are no stranger to what is happening in this country, and on many occasions you've had to comment about the seriousness of the security challenges that Nigeria is facing over the years. Now, many people have said that the most serious and what is fueling some of this insurgency is having weapons, AK-47 and the rest of them, in the hands of bandits, hoodlums, and the headsmen who are ravaging communities in this country. How serious is the problem of proliferation of small arms and light weapons in Nigeria today?
Well, thank you very much, Segun. Thank you very much, listeners. I think the problem of crime and criminality, especially as is manifesting in, banditry and other forms of insurgencies, really have their roots in how easily it is, to obtain very lethal weapons that has continued to ravage the societies in different parts of this country. Your analysis said northeast and northwest. You've excluded north central, you've excluded southeast, you've excluded southwest, and the part of the country. So I'm saying in essence that the proliferation of small arms and light weapons is a general Nigerian problem. And based on even the statistics you gave before at the beginning of this meeting, that over 75% of the total number of small arms and light weapons that are moving around West Africa are actually in Nigeria. The reason is very simple. The reason is because this is a fertile market for it. This is a country that is so large, that has abundant land spaces that today are dominated by antisocial elements that we call ungoverned spaces. So it's really there. It's the crisis, the crimes that we are facing today, in my humble opinion, is mainly supported and proliferated by the number of small arms and light weapons that we have moving all over the place. And it's a ready market because this crisis, Segun, for your information, is not just starting. It's not starting 20 years ago, as many people try to make it look. The crisis of small arms and light weapons moving into Nigeria has its roots right from the early 1980s. In fact, late 1970s was the crisis in Chad Republic, and so on and so forth. So small arms and light weapons have really been in this country for a very long time, and it's what is giving, the antisocial elements the latitude to continue to hold supreme, and even perhaps beyond the conventional security forces that we have in Nigeria today. And the issue of, herdsmen now has become globalized in the sense that every criminal, from no matter what ethnic group he or she may belong, that has access to this small arms and light weapon is referred to as a herdsman. So, true, I agree with you. We have a very huge national challenge before us, and this challenge perhaps was treated by kid gloves as far as government is concerned. But today it is very clear, the way things are going on, that apparently even the conventional Nigerian security outfits seems to be losing ground. That's what it appears like. If we have to go by the reports we receive from places like Katsina, where individuals are now going to negotiate on their own with these terror groups, simply because the security apparatuses have not been able to protect them, and they are finding it now more convenient to get to these people and negotiate with them so that they can live in peace. It's a very dangerous signal that perhaps sends a very alarming warning to those that are in charge of the Nigerian states, and if for nothing, they should begin to understand the fact that these are not things to celebrate. They are things to, in fact, send more fears into our spines, because it means simply that government is gradually losing that legitimacy of violence that it is, constitutionally empowered to have, negotiating with people, who are non-state actors. So it's a very simple problem.
Thank you. Dr. Mato, we have painted a very, very grim picture of the security situation as posed by the problem of proliferation of small arms and light weapons. I really appreciate your initial comment on this program. We're going to have a very good time on this program. But allow me to just take a very short break. I'll be right back. Please don't go. Thank you, Prof. Dr. Mato, thanks for still joining us on the program. I have somebody in the studio to join us in this discussion. His name is Dixon Oji. He's an international security and disarmament expert. He's in fact the president, Global Network for Human Development, and program coordinator of the former Presidential Committee on Small Arms and Light Weapons, PRESCOM. I welcome you, Dr. Oji, to the program.
My pleasure. Good to see you again.
Yes, thank you very much. It's been long that we met.
Yeah.
Yes. Dr. Mato, I know you are still there. And I'm sure you are familiar with the works of the former Presidential Committee on Small Arms and Light Weapons. From your initial comments, before Honorable Dixon comes in, from what you have said, it's like all the agencies, all the efforts that were put in place over the years, they don't seem to have yielded much, especially this Presidential Committee on Small Arms and Light Weapons. Let me hear your opinion before Honorable Dixon makes some points.
Well, thank you very much. Again, I think, it's a general national calamity. It's, when you have your borders open, Nigeria has a very extensive,
and porous borders.
Yes, borders that are unmanned. So it is very easy for criminals and all sorts of things to smuggle into the country without really detection. So the committee, not just at the national level, even at the ECOWAS level and within the African continental level, have tried as much as possible to manage and discourage the proliferation of small arms and light weapons all over the continent and all over the sub-region and all over the country. But in Nigeria, it has been a very problematic issue due to so many reasons. Sometimes I do ask myself this question: what's really happening that today it is the government and security apparatuses that continue to speak to you about ungoverned species? I've lived in this country, for God's sake, for the last 63 years. And as a young man, I know that I still can remember that the level of infrastructural development was far less than what we have today. But the country did not experience these ungoverned species as much as we're having today. So what that simply translates to, in my humble interpretation, is the continuous failure of the state to be able to man the geopolitical territory that it's under its influence. That's simply what it means. And if you're unable to do that, you don't mind. Now, people argue in so many instances that Nigeria is heavily under policed, it is under armed, the custom officers we have, the immigration officers are, grossly insufficient if you put them in perspective with the number of people that we have as our population and then the total landmass, and especially the border areas that we have in this country. So whatever efforts that any committee of government, whether at national or at international level, will put in place in order to curb this menace, will be grossly hindered by the inability of the internal machinery, to work effectively to be able to address that. So I quite sympathize with, the committees on the small arms, the light weapons at the national level, at sub-regional level, and at even global level, because here they can only efficiently be able to function if they are supported with the other nitty-gritty security apparatuses, that are supposed to help in guarding our national boundaries. And that is one. And secondly, also, there is a very endemic problem with the rest of the population. Crime and criminalities in every human society is only sustained if there are internal collisions. If members of our communities, respectively, in the Northwest, in the Northeast, in the North Central, in the Southeast, South, and all over the country, will pay attention on ensuring that the well-being of your neighbor is your own well-being. Being our brothers' keepers will go a long way in addressing this serious. But we cover up, and we tend to treat these criminals because they are part of us, with kid gloves. Now, no matter how much government or any committee will try to do again, you will be faced with a lot of challenges and a lot of problems. And I think that is, one of the major problems that we are facing as a nation today, as far as this proliferation and the expansion of criminalities across the land and base of this country is concerned.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let me allow you to sip some water while I speak with Dr. Oji. Now, he did not condemn the work of Prescom. Neither did he he did not even say that the committee didn't perform, or other committees set up even at the ECOWAS and the AU level. But he mentioned the vastness of Nigeria and the porous nature of the border and the connivance of the populace treating criminals like our kids and kings. These are family members. These are members of our community. We speak the same language. We belong to the same religion, and so they fraternize with them, even to the detriment of their own security. Why do you think your committee, and indeed other committees set up by various agencies to attack this problem, why do you think they have really not worked?
Thank you very much. And even if you criticize what we did, critique is part of life. It's if you don't understand, then you take critique negatively. Critique will only make you to sit up. It's not an individual thing. Talking about government in general, what government can do. If you criticize government, it means you want government to sit up and do things better. We did our bit. Then in Prescom, various government agencies have continued to do their bit. But I'll tell you something. A former DG of NIA said something. He said, security agencies are like goalkeepers. You can stop 100 shots in one match, but the single one that you let in will be the decider.
Yes, you're as good as your best performance.
Your best performance. So, Nigeria is porous, yes. So also is America. So also is UK. But the ability to manage your borders, the ability to ensure that nothing comes in that you don't want to come in, is the key thing. ECOWAS keeps shouting, we are moving from ECOWAS of states to ECOWAS of people. Free movement of goods and services and all that. Are we putting the right things in place to ensure that our borders are closed up? Like he rightly said, we have about 1,500 kilometer open border in northern Nigeria alone. And like we keep saying, if all the security agencies, paramilitary and all that are holding their hands together, they cannot cover the space called Nigeria. That is why we need technology. Nigeria needs technology to man borders. We need orientation. Our people need to understand that these criminals can harm you in as much as you're trying to protect them as your kin and kith. Like we say, guns outlive their owners. Somebody may have bought a gun 20 years ago. The gun is still living. The person may be dead now, but the gun continues to live, continues to cause havoc in the society. So we try to tell people that you need to understand clearly that illicit arms are dangerous in the community. They are dangerous in your home. You don't know who will inherit it and what the person is going to do with it. So when people begin to acquire weapons because they feel government agencies are not doing enough to protect them, they're actually making themselves more vulnerable to violence. Now, let me come directly to why government agencies don't, some government agencies are not performing. It's not that they're not performing, but they may not be doing enough to the expectation of Nigerians. I remember in Prescom those days, we destroyed over 20,000 weapons. Where did these weapons come from? In Zamfara State alone, we destroyed almost 6,000 weapons in one sweep, and so on and so forth. And we have a local industry that is boosting in arms production. If you see the weapons produced locally in Nigeria, you'll be amazed. Those days we used to say local and foreign-made weapons. Today we have changed that acronym. We begin to say factory-made and local craft. Because if you put the two of them together sometimes, if you're not a professional, you will not know the difference. And guess what? They use the same set of ammunition to operate them. So you discover that, yes, there are lapses. And how do we cover these lapses? Like I said, one, we must deploy technology. Two, there's need to continue to train and retrain, because criminals are upping their game. Criminals that were using, let's say, pump action those days, today they are using AK-47. Militants are even buying higher caliber of weapons. So yes, exactly. So as they are stepping up, government must step up. So first, government must step up. There is need for government to continue to train and retrain our officers and men. Secondly, there's need to provide equipment, technology. Three, there is need for every government agency to understand clearly that the operatives are humans. They need comfort. They need basic amenity. If you go to some border communities in Nigeria and see how our so-called security agencies are living there, you will cry for this country. I've seen a place where, I'm not saying they say, I visited 19 out of the 21 border communities in Nigeria. I've seen a place where there's only one rope separating Nigeria and the other country. Yes, a single rope. And then you can imagine what goes on there at night.
Let me tell you one.
Yes.
In my state, Ogun State, when you go to our border, you will see a house. The front is in Nigeria, the back is in Benin Republic.
Exactly.
So anything brought into that house,
I think Shaki is in Oyo State.
Is in Oyo State.
Yeah, I've been there too.
Our own is the Benin Republic, Cotonou. Oh, okay. It's Cotonou, Idiroku.
Okay. Yeah, I've been to that side too. I was also in a place they call Kawoje. After Kawoje, you get to the border between Birnin KB State and Benin Republic on that side. And then you see that it's only a stream. Both countries, they fetch the same stream. So you see that, just like you said, they see themselves as one. Somebody can commit a crime here and run into this place and all that. So we also need orientation. Our people need to understand that you don't allow criminals to stay in your midst. Much as security agencies are trying to their best, agencies like Prescom, now we have the National Center on Small Arms and Light Weapons under the Office of the National Security Advisor, and they've been doing a very wonderful work. You see that customs have continued to seize weapons upon weapons, and then you ask yourself one question, and that is where I always want every Nigerian to start from. Don't start blaming. The question you have to ask yourself: who needs this weapon and why? Who supplies these weapons and why? That's our takeoff point. That should always be our takeoff point. Government have their blame, and then miscreants, criminal elements in the society also have their blame. Now, let me answer these questions. Who needs these weapons and why? Criminal elements, kidnappers need these weapons, armed robbers need these weapons, drug and human traffickers also all need these weapons to perform their nefarious activities. And who supplies this weapon and why? The people supplying these weapons are people who see these things as a means of business because there is a demand for it. And there is a demand for it because of several reasons. And that is fundamental. And that is where government comes in. Unemployment. A young man who leaves school 5 years down the line doesn't have a job. He's susceptible to being lured into those kind of criminal activities. And then, of course, militancy. And then we have religion. Religion, I don't know whether religion has done us more harm than good. Religious ideologies have led people into carrying arms. But again, if there's employment and these young people are employed, that means we begin to reduce or dismantle that template on which these militant organizations, derive their motivation.
Okay. Now, let me go to Dr. Matu. Doctor, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Now, he has given a nexus between unemployment and the arms sales. I was about asking him about where are the arms coming from, who are the arms dealers, and who are the users of these illicit weapons. You have said earlier that it is because of the richness of Nigeria we have the money to purchase these arms. But do you really think that unemployment is one of the reasons why people take to crime all the time? The reason why I'm saying this is that no matter the level of poverty, there are still some people that will never steal. There are people like that. And I also know that there are illiterates that have been able to develop themselves through using their bare hands to earn a living for themselves. Don't you believe that those that take to crime, something must have gone wrong on their head before they start?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I honestly don't think so. I think before unemployment, you have to talk about access to education itself. Substantial portion of the national calamities that we face as the nation is attributable, in my humble opinion, to the very skewed national social policies. The Nigerian state has been bereft of ideas on how to treat its, especially the younger population. Now, the statistics has it that over 70% of over 200 million people that live in this country are actually below the ages of 30. And if you have that, then you have a government that does not pay premium on investment in education. And skills acquisition. Yes, and education and skills acquisition.
Skill acquisition too, yes.
Yes, and instead celebrates construction of roads, procurement of aircraft and other, exotic materials of life, then of course, we're in trouble. Now, let me give you a brief history of the current crisis that is being faced in a substantial part of this country, and that's the issue of banditry. In 1984, 1985, when Professor Jibril Aminu was appointed Minister of Education, one of the first things he came up with was the idea of
6334
education. Yes, education for the nomad children. It was called a nomadic education. Now, the critical segment of the Nigerian society stood firmly and said, no, Professor Jibril Aminu was only taking advantage of position as a minister in the government of Nigeria. I wanted to deploy substantial resources to service his own kinsmen who are mainly, the Fulanis. People came out and said, no, I'm not talking specifically about the Fulanis. I'm also talking about the migrant fishermen in the Niger Delta area who never go to school. They never went to school. They always migrating from one part of the coast to the other, in order to sustain their living. He said, no, this is good for us. Now, what Prof did at that material time was an in-depth knowledge of the crisis that Nigeria was to face in the future if these herders who relied 100% on the cattle, right, were to lose these cattle. And many things could happen. As an educated person, you know obviously that there is a question of climate change. There is a tumultuous, economic environment, not only in your country, but globally, that tend to affect so many things over time. Now, Nigerians rejected that, and nomadic education could not have a space, because if you took the statistics of young, able-bodied Fulani men and boys and girls that were going to school, throughout this country, was in a very small number. And they were not in any type of occupation. They were not welders, they were not, vulcanizers, they were not doing anything. They were basically relying 100% on these cattle. And then we got to a stage where climate change and so many things have taken away the cattle from them, and they are not educated. They didn't have any skills
nothing to fall back on.
Anywhere else. And, yes, and nothing to fall back on. And then we were faced with this crisis. So it tells you about the neglect as far as social policy is concerned in Nigeria. And any country that does not cater for its young people is doomed to have this crisis. And I'm telling you that it's very unfortunate that still those who preside over us, those who take decisions on our behalf, do not seem to understand the gravity of the nature of the problem. And instead, are always giving it a cosmetic approach. They're not looking at it right at the bottom by social engineering to make sure that social policies are introduced that will reduce the occurrences of these calamities, at least in the future. If you look on our streets and you see the number of young people that are out of school, that are doing nothing, that have no skills, then you know that the future is even holding greater tragedies for us. So it is not just about job opportunities. It is about education. It is about, skills acquisition. It's about, so many things. And in fact, poverty has ravaged families. In those days, we were told that the character molding institution starts with the family. Then, of course, you go to the school. Then you go to the church, or you go to the mosque. Then you go to the peer group. Then you go to the street. Now, these institutions, have their roles redefined for them. Now, what mold the characters of a lot of our children is one peer group, secondly the street, no more the family, no more the church or the mosque, no more the school. Now, a society that is facing that and has a ruling class that does not seem to care, or does at least does not show sufficient, attention.
Okay. I know Dr. Makuru will still try and join us. We lost the links there. Now, he has mentioned a good number of things. He added more to what you said about the causes, what drives people into taking to arms. You mentioned the collapse of the social system and emphasized on education, especially technical and vocational education. But we'll come back to that later so that I can continue on that line of thoughts. Let's talk about those that are the arms dealers. It's been said that if I'm just using the police, if the police or any security agents, they really want to work, they know where the criminals are. Is it difficult to know who the arms dealers are? Now, I understand what you said about local fabrication of some of these weapons, but what the ones that are still coming from abroad is still very huge.
Yeah, thank you very much. Of course, there's no need denying the complicity of some not too good elements within the system, corrupt elements. Let's use the language. Some corrupt elements within the system. It is very clear and of truth that these weapons wouldn't enter our system if there is no complicity somewhere. Because come to think of it, who has the resources to import, for instance, the one that customs intercepted in One, almost 800 pump action. Who has the resources to do that? You have to know how much you have to be able to do that. So it's still going to the upper class. It's still going to the people, the bourgeoisies who have the resources to import. And these are people who have friends at the top. These are people, individuals who feel they are untouchable sometimes to be able to do those kind of things. So clearly, there is complicity between those who do this gun running and some elements within our security system. There's no doubt about that. Again, when we say that security agencies, if they want to do their job, they are doing their job, but there is interference. I will just give you a few examples that you and I know every day. Road safety, VIO stops somebody on the way, he picks his phone and calls somebody in the office. I say, give them the phone.
Yeah, crazy.
And it's gone. Most often now, it is the same. You think it's different, it's not different, it's the same. Somebody has imported something, If customs don't do their job, we will not know the ones that we are hearing in recent times that has been intercepted. Unfortunately, there may also be some that has gone in without being detected. So we know that these things happen. But what is critical here is that we must ensure that our agencies have the capacity, the competencies, and the efficiencies to do their job. Let these other people be doing until somebody comes and says no. Someday somebody will say no to them. If somebody didn't say no, these ones that are being intercepted would have gone in. But somewhere along the line, there will be somebody that will say no until, it will go around where we will have people in various positions that will be able to say no to these people. I know clearly that there are people who have refused to take bribe and refused to be cajoled into any form of intimidation and all that. So we know that these things happen. But I also want to say that our people, like they see something and say something. If you see something, say something. You never can tell. This thing can save us. Because I say that any one weapon, illicit weapon that's removed from the society is a lifesaver. Because when the bullet leaves the barrel of a gun, you don't know who is going to hit. It may hit the person that is not intended for. That is why everybody, all hands need to be on deck. It's like firing shots in the air. When the bullet comes down, you don't know who is going to hit. So everybody must. I'll give you one example, which is why we should also, every agency, national orientation agency, should be able to educate the people. Once upon a time, we were having a town hall meeting, and we started showing pictures. And one lady just said, "But Megida in so." It was then, we had to kind of had this conversation, and she said that her husband has about 7 of them. And then we said, if we approach him, she said no, that she will tell, based on what she has seen here and heard, that she's going to tell him. And then we monitored closely, and she actually told the man, and the man surrendered those weapons. And he gave his reasons clearly, because we promised him we are not going to start making any issue out of it. He said that bandits used to cross from, I don't want to mention the areas, and she said that bandits used to cross. And then they in the village side have to be ready for them. So it boils down to people not feeling secure enough, people not feeling that security agencies have protected them enough, so they want to protect themselves.
Now, that brings me to my next point. I like Dr. Mato is back. It's good to have you back, Doctor. Let me just say hi to him before we continue. Good to have you back.
Thank you, Shegun.
Okay, sir. Now, let me ask our guest in the studio. I know that over the years, the police will appeal to members of the public. Those of you having guns or firearms that you do not have license for, please come and surrender them, or even come and register them. How has the response been? Are people still willing to let go of this weapon? Because look at the scenario that you gave. The man is keeping those firearms for security purposes. There are neighborhoods now that are buying guns for their estate security. Will you say that, okay, maybe we should just allow people to carry gun and then have legislations to control it?
Thank you very much. It will be counterproductive to ask people to have guns now as things are in Nigeria. There are border clashes here and there. There are herders farmers clashes here and there. There are pockets of banditry, kidnappings here and there. If you ask people to start, if you permit people to start buying weapons, by the way, what we are talking about is illicit weapons that people don't have license for. Now, if government calls for mop up of arms, it boils down to trust. Do those people trust government enough to hand over their weapons to them, and they will be protected? And then do they really, because you hear people say, it's when the criminals have gone and now they are coming, and things like that. So it's already in their psyche. They already don't trust the system. They already believe that what they have. And then clearly there are people who believe that these weapons they have are their means of livelihood. Don't take that away. So if somebody believes that that weapon is his or her means of livelihood, and you want to take it away from him or her, you have to give them something in return. Just like he was saying, I had things like vocational training, things like we did what we call alternative livelihood. But please don't give them money. If you give them money, they buy more. But if you want to do what they call alternative livelihood and micro projects at the community level, that is perfect. You bring them in, give them training like we did with 7 states during the press-com time. We trained over 500 of them, and then we gave them starter packs, you know. So we are happy, and some we are not. Some thought that what we did was a charade because they needed the money. And we told them from ab initio that we are not giving you money. Because we, during the Obasanjo time, we know what when we did the arms buyback.
Yes.
When we did the arms buyback, we gave arms for cash. We tried to buy off those weapons from them. The assessments was done based on the quantity of weapons, the quality of them and all that, and calculations were made and funds exchanged hands. And then, to our shock, we got to the point of destruction and discovered that some were mortars, some were frying pan, those things tied in bags. You know? So,
not really guns.
Not really guns. But they were guns actually. But these were deceit. And then they brought them guns and all that. And then the real things we were looking for, we thought they were surrendered. We are just little. They were just very small.
Smart people.
So one, there's issue of trust. Do these people trust government enough? And then police is your friend, police is your friend. Sometimes police is not really your friend. They do things that make them not your friend. So people would rather want to keep these things than surrender them because one, they lack that trust, and two, some feel it is their means of livelihood.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Mato, I'm back with you. I remember when insurgency started in Nigeria, and we were talking about illicit guns in circulation. People say, they came from Libya. Let's blame the Americans. They dislodged Muammar Gaddafi, but they refused to collect or seize the guns. So hoodlums collected it, and the best place that they come is Nigeria because of the porous nature of our border. How long ago was that? The guns are still here, and they are increasing. Now, how do we stop this unrestrained infiltration of these arms? How do we stop them from further coming in, especially when security agencies are probably aware of the arms dealers? I remember NAFDAC in those days when we have pervasive hard drugs, drugs in Nigeria, especially fake and substandard. They went to the producers abroad and told them, if you don't ensure you improve on the quality of your drugs, we will stop them. We will stop Nigeria from buying drugs from your country. And I think we had sanity at that time. Now, why can't we go to, appeal or coerce some of these arms dealers abroad not to allow illicit guns to come into Nigeria, or those that are merchants from buying these guns and ship them to Nigeria?
I honestly don't know. Maybe Dr. Oji will have a better answer on how to stop that.
So maybe you'll be able to.
There's such arrangement.
But remember, he did tell us in this meeting that in fact, now what you have is that you have guns that are factory made, guns that are local made. It means, therefore, that there is an inverse transfer of technology from guns that are manufactured in the industry and the guns that are locally manufactured here. And I know for sure that, in virtually, especially in the crisis-ridden areas in the north central region and some parts of, other parts of the country, there are a lot of young people that have taken a vacation out of that. We watch every day, we read every day on the pages of newspapers how unsuspecting young people are arrested with guns. They are the criminals to the extent that they manufacture these guns or they trade in these guns. They take them, you know why they take them when they buy them. We watch every day how women who ordinarily look innocent, wearing burqa, wearing hijab, will be arrested with rounds of ammunition and guns, transporting from one part of Nigeria to the other. So as to how that is going to stop, my answer as a student of political science will always be that there is a need to invest heavily as far as social infrastructure is concerned in Nigeria.
Thank you.
And then secondly also, Dr. Oji did tell us here in very unambiguous sake of self-defense. Now, a lot of areas in this country, not just in the northern part of this country, but across the length and breadth of Nigeria, there are people who will come out and tell you, especially in those communities where attacks are persistent, that everybody should be ready to defend himself. I know of, emirs and several other highly placed people who were interdicted by the respective governments for simply telling their people to defend themselves. And in an environment where it is apparent that those who have the legitimacy to carry arms, the legitimacy to use violence, are unable to do it to protect unsuspecting citizens, then it becomes the choice of the citizens to now work out their ways on how to protect themselves. And that's why a lot of these arms are found in many, many households where, these people are not criminals per se, but they keep these things in self-defense. Again, this is another very unfortunate, sad story of a failed state system. Because by the time people begin to defend themselves, it means, therefore, that the entire social contract theory that gave rise to the state itself is defeated. That's it. And then, importantly, also, you spoke about the proliferation of these small arms and light weapons as having precipitated by the fall of Gaddafi in Libya. No, that was just one. Before that, I told you, in 1980, in Chad Republic here, there was a big political crisis between Gokune Wadai, Hissan Habre, and the rest.
Yes.
And a lot of proliferation of arms. That was the first time, at least in the recent history, when small weapons and light arms became cheap ingredients of trade, especially within the northeastern part of this country. But it's gone beyond that. And then, of course, if we remember Libya under Gaddafi. Libya had the highest military equipments in Africa, in terms of guns, in terms of trucks, whatever you call it. And then the manner in which the Libyan civil war was fought, and the apparent overthrow and murder of Colonel Gaddafi, up to this moment as we speak, Libya is not a state as we used to know it. And so there are contending forces, and so you obviously couldn't have stopped, the proliferation of these arms and weapons from Libya. And of course, like it's rightly said in this program, the major market has always been Nigeria. This is why you have more than 200.
Even Liberia.
What? Liberia, to some extent, you see, that's again the wisdom that gave rise to the decision of both President Babangida and Jansani Abacha to send troops to Liberia and to Sierra Leone in order to maintain the peace. Because the thinking was that if you allow Liberia, if you allow Sierra Leone to collapse within West Africa, the major casualty will be Nigeria. And of course, you remember, if you remember Lagos, Victoria Island, during the Liberian crisis, and you see the number of Liberian migrants, that form different type of colonies on Victoria Island, constituting one form of problem or the other. You understand that, look, Nigeria had a very big role to play. But I do not think if the crisis in Liberia and Sierra Leone exacerbated the quantity of small arms and light weapons that came into Nigeria, aside from the crisis that we have in Libya, the crisis that we had in Chad, and of course the development of the local technology that young people are now producing a lot of these lethal weapons, that are used in the stabilization of the polity.
Okay. Thank you for the points that you have raised on that issue. You were itching to say something on that question.
Yes. Actually, there's an arrangement to combat arms importation into West Africa under the ECOWAS Convention on Small Arms and Light Weapons. Now, the first thing is that under Article 24 of that convention, every member state is mandated to have a national commission on small arms. Then secondly, there is what they call, there's a blanket ban on importation of weapons into West Africa.
Okay.
Nobody is supposed to import any weapons into West Africa. However, for security needs of countries, if you have genuine security need to import weapons into your country, then you have to request for an exemption certificate from ECOWAS. So when you write ECOWAS to request for an exemption certificate, you are going to write everything pertaining to importation, from the manufacturer to the quantity of weapons to the caliber of weapons down to the list, even the ammunition. Then you make that submission to the ECOWAS Secretariat. Then the ECOWAS Secretariat will transmit that request for exemption to the ECOWAS member states and wait for 60 days. If there's no objection after that 60 days, then the exemption certificate will be approved and is sent back to you so you can import weapons. And then, to go further, there is an association known as the WASNA Arrangement. It's an association of arms producing nations in Europe. ECOWAS has an agreement, an MOU with them to say that if any member of ECOWAS or any West African country comes to buy weapons from any of those countries within the WASNA arrangement, you should request for that exemption certificate. So if there's no exemption certificate, this group of European manufacturers will not sell weapons to you. Okay. So that is a mechanism that ECOWAS put in place to checkmate importation, illicit importation of weapons into West Africa. Unfortunately, you see some nations, we have seen some nations who actually mutilated the content after approval. Yes, some also have mutilated the dates to try to use that one approval to buy weapons.
Many times.
Many times. And then there's a problem of transshipment. Sometimes some of these things go missing during transshipment and all that. So you discover that there's a whole range of mechanisms that were put in place, but how they have been implemented and how they have been followed to ensure that nations comply with them is a different ballgame. So that's the point I was going to make.
Now, let's look at, you've mentioned the mechanism put in place by ECOWAS, yes. For instance. But why the high demand for guns in West Africa? You know, you can imagine nations that can barely feed their population investing heavily in guns. You know, militarizing the whole West African sub-region. Why?
I'm going to give you 5 reasons why. The first reason I'm going to give you is the issue of religion. Those who think that their ideology should be imposed in their states. We're looking at what is happening in Mali with the Tuaregs and co. We're looking at what is happening in Nigeria with Boko Haram and co. We're looking at what is happening. And these guys are buying sophisticated weapons. Secondly, another reason why we have such is climate change. Climate change is driving herders to go and confront with farmers. They're looking for grazing land for their cattle. In the process of looking for grazing land for their cattle, they move into areas that of course, they are naturally rain, and then they start clashing with farmers, and then they buy weapons. Another thing, number 3, is communal conflicts. We have pockets of communal conflicts, and let me also tell you that we have community armories. There are yes. There are communities in Nigeria that have community armories. Why? Because they feel that if another community wants to attack them, they can fight back. I know of a state where we worked in the past that there's a singular individual that government tried to arrest severally, but his people will shield him because he is the one that comes in front to help them ward off any external aggression. But they eventually killed him anyway. But you will now see that there are pockets of individuals like that who are like the field marshals who will be in the front to confront, and then their people buy weapons and keep in those communities. And then, of course, there's local fabrication of weapons in those communities. The fourth one are big-time criminal elements: the kidnappers, the armed robbers, the human traffickers, the drug lords. They need these things, and these things are happening just like we keep talking about porousness of our borders. We did a conference recently, and we discussed about the maritime and the Gulf of Guinea. Do you know the size of a ship? anything can enter into country through a ship.
Yes.
Do you know the size of waters? Somebody can cross from international waters. If the Navy is not careful, these things will enter through the water. So when we did that conference, we realized that there is a big laguna in the Gulf of Guinea and the maritime sector through which arms can come. And then we are trying to also look at the Sahel region. You see, there are ungoverned spaces in the Sahel region. Look at the size of Mali. Sorry, the size of Niger, for instance. There are areas in Niger that nobody lives there, uninhabited. And you see that criminal elements know these things, and they know the access through which they come. So these places open up spaces for them to enter and bring in these weapons. And then when they now enter into the countries, they devolve into the countries, like that.
Okay. I've always wondered why, for instance, Nigeria will try to be our brother's keeper, protecting them, assisting them in their election, giving them money, giving them electricity. But those weapons that undermine the security and safety of Nigeria and the Nigerian people coming through their borders. You can imagine Benin Republic, for instance, they are importing rice, items, vehicles for the Nigerian market. Why is there no cooperation, if I can just say that, among West African countries? I know that if some countries in West Africa are looking at our backs as a nation, if I can say that, some of these problems will be reduced.
Yes, I agree with you to a certain point, but my point of departure is the part where you think that Nigeria is just doing Big Brother for nothing. Let me tell you, for instance, the issue of Niger and Nigeria. That's a river that every now and then Nigeria say we keep them light, we give them light. No, there was an agreement that Nigeria should construct the dam, because if they did their own construction, then it's going to affect our own.
Yes.
So in return for that partnership and that gesture, Nigeria is giving them part of the light. So it's not really like we're doing Father Christmas for them on that side. Then the reason, the people are helpless themselves. These countries are also helpless. Let me also tell you that majority of the people who do those importations in Benin Republic and bring them into Nigeria are Nigerians.
Yeah.
The people that do the trading, the people that bring in those weapons, the people that do all those things and send it to Niger are Nigerians, because they feel that they could do some manipulations there easier than they can do in Nigeria. Just like I said, the maritime sector is very big. And from there, they'll start bringing it bit by bit, bit by bit. And that is where the circumspectfulness of our security agencies must be top-notch. You see a woman carrying a child crossing the border. You don't know whether there's something between her and the child. But because of familiarity, mama, what? The woman pass. Some people come to the border side practically not searched because of familiarity. They think that they know this person, they know this person. So these criminal elements take advantage of all those kind of things to bring in these weapons. And then if you look at the Cameroon side, it's like Nigerians enter from Calabar, from Akwa Ibom side, they move another serious area. They move freely, and the sea is that's like we say, it's very broad. You think there's another mistake we make. These guys don't come through the normal borders.
Yes.
They don't wait for you to come and catch them at the normal borders. They have routes. And there's a statement you made at the beginning of this program. You mentioned the fact that communities aid and abet some of these people.
Yes.
And you know why? These people marry with them. These people give them things.
Yes.
There was a case where in Badagry axis, there's a community there that fought the Nigerian custom to protect a particular gun runner.
It happens in the state every now and then.
Because these people go to the communities and give them something. So that's why I was talking about orientation. Our people agencies responsible should go there and let these people know that this thing will be counterproductive at the end of the day. And then let's look at even Chad. Let's look at the Chad axis. You see that Maiduguri axis, Chad relationship. There are people there who feel that they are brothers. If you enter Niger Republic, if you can speak Hausa, you're at home. I remember we went to that Katsina axis. From Katsina, we entered a place they call, I've forgotten, Danisa. We went to do a program in Danisa. If you can speak Hausa, you are at home. If you can speak Hausa in the streets of Niamey, you are at home. So you see, criminal elements take advantages of those kind of factors to do their business. So it's not as if the security agencies or government of those countries want these people to be doing this thing or are trying to antagonize Nigeria. Of course, there are partnerships. If there was a time Nigeria even bought up to 50 Hilux
yes.
that they gave to Niger.
I remember.
Yes. So you see, there's partnership.
Yes.
Another problem that we usually have is that those people at the border communities don't understand that there's a different country here and a different country here. You don't allow these people here to come and infiltrate into your country and bring all those kind of things. So
there's a town.
Yes.
There's a town, because I was GM in one border community in Ogun State for some time, Imeko. You know, there's a town in that Imeko local government. It's called Ilala. Right in the middle of that town, there is a cenotaph. One part of that cenotaph is in Nigeria. The other part is in Nigeria. Is in Benin Republic. So, if you don't even, you will not even know when you have crossed to Benin Republic. In fact, the border, there is no border line in that kind of community. You can wake up in Nigeria, before you take one step, you are in the Republic. So smugglers in that community, you know, they are free. In fact, a custom officer will be very, very careful to go to Ilara for enforcement. And unfortunately, the people that we keep in such borders do not even have the equipment to work. No. I have been to Mambila Plateau. From Mambila Plateau, we tried to get to the Nigerian border with Cameroon. That road, if you miss your way, if for any reason there's an accident, without exaggeration, the person is going down like 2,000 feet. Yes. And it's a muddy road, it's on third road. And yet, this is the route. That this smuggling route. Yes, the smuggling route. And if you're descending, you must ensure that you make contact with the guy coming up so that he can wait for you. Because if you meet face to face, nobody's going back. So they usually send a motorbike ahead. So if there's a vehicle coming up, they'll ask him to stop because of the one coming down. Interesting.
And you need to see the things they carry. I'm saying that because of the content of the things they carry. Fuel.
Wow.
Fuel mainly. And then other like arms also.
Yes. So we have a problem on our hands.
Yes, we do. We certainly do.
So are we helpless?
No, we are not.
Okay.
We are not. Because I will say that we are not, emphatically. We are not helpless. There are three things that needs to be done. One, we need to fund our security agencies properly. Two, we need equipment. We need to equip them properly. And three, we need the active participation or collaboration of stakeholders, of citizens. Okay. And for each of these items, I can tell you, I can still break it down.
Okay, I'll give you time.
Yes.
Let me ask that same question from Dr. Mato. Because from some of the things that we've been saying now, it's like this problem is intractable, or that we're probably bereft of idea. We have so many institutions that are in charge of mopping up all these illicit arms in the hands of non-state actors. But we still see the arms being used every day, every hour, every second. As we speak, bandits are still running riots in some parts of this country. Are we helpless?
Well, I don't think so. I really don't think so. But I think for us to address this problem, we must try to stage them into three. One is that we need to have the immediate solutions, and the immediate solutions are what Dr. Oji is talking about. Retooling the security agencies, funding them, and so on and so forth. Every month, for God's sake. And billions of naira have been taken away from the federal account in the name of security fund. So funding is not a major problem, but yes, if you throw money at problems, you are not solving problems. And that seems to be what the Nigerian state and the security agencies are doing. just throwing money at problems. When you throw money at problems, you're not solving any problem. You must use money to solve problems. That is using money the right way. So resources actually is one of the major issues. But I think in the long run, in the long term, why we're still in this mess is because anytime government tries to address these issues, it addresses the issues in the immediate without taking into cognizance the medium and long-term implications. And then the medium and long-term implications, as far as concerned, is government strategizing on social policies. I'm not asking for a socialist state. I'm not saying government should do everything. No, but it is a responsibility of the state to provide the enabling environment for the citizens to thrive. You must create an enabling environment to provide qualitative. I'm a beneficiary of qualitative public education. Today, I cannot afford to send any of my children to a public school in this country. Several other people who benefited from that benevolence are unable to do that. And that means that we are still postponing the day of judgment. We are prolonging the nature of the crisis. So the state must use a lot of its resources. Roads are essential infrastructure. I don't have any issue with that. But we must go back to the area of education. We must go back to the area of skills acquisition. We must go back to the area of empowering citizens to be able to take control of the livelihood of their children. And then, of course, government must play a pivotal role in ensuring that those character molding institutions as they used to be, the family, the school, the mosque and the church, okay, the peer group and so on and so on, take their proper positioning. As long as we continue in this mess, then we'll be addressing the problem in the short run while it's been aggravated for the future. It's not all hope lost, but then certainly, we need to have thinking caps, we need to do more. The major problem here is collapse and failure of social policies in this country.
I must thank you, Dr. Kabir Mato. You never disappoint in terms of your intellectual capacity and the willingness to talk, quite frankly, on the issues of Nigeria and how to improve our polity. Thank you very much, sir. I wish you the very best in all that you do. May the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you. Thank you for your participation on this program this afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, Honorable, I've been hearing of a number of federal agencies. You even mentioned the new one that is PCCO now, the one you served on before. I've not had that one before. There are a number of agencies. Please, is doing its own, even so many other agencies that we do not know. But I've never heard of any from any of the 36 states and the FCT working on this issue. Yes, I've heard them talk about malaria. Yes, I've heard them talk about building roads and the rest of it. As if this one that we are talking about should be secondary or even should be number 10. Not to even talk of local government where some of these porous borders that you mentioned are located. Is it just a federal problem or?
I am aware that there's a National Center on Small Arms and Light Weapons domiciled in the Office of the National Security Advisor. And I'm also aware that they have zonal offices in the 6 geopolitical zones. I think that they are also planning to have state offices and then local government offices. But be that as it may, I want to talk about this, how to deal with this challenge.
Okay.
How to deal with the challenge of small arms proliferation in Nigeria. Number one, we should make political offices less attractive, because politicians are part of the people importing these weapons into the country during election. Election has become either I win or they lose.
Do or die.
Either I win or they lose. You understand? Now, why is it so? It is so because somebody in the National Assembly, a senator, for instance, is earning almost 500 million per annum. Those in House of Rep earning close to 400 million per annum. If you calculate this, it's like earning 1 million naira every day. Which business will give you that? So it becomes a do or die affair, because like somebody said, government is the biggest industry in Nigeria. Another person said no, government is the only industry in Nigeria.
Only, yes.
Yes. We should start reviving all those Leventis, all those big shops that we used to manufacture in textile industry. If we have industries, people will have jobs. And by the time people have jobs, we should, in fact, the National Assembly, as far as I'm concerned, well, I don't know how, I contested for an election, so I know how it feels. So I think it should be a part-time thing. It should not be a permanent job. Because if it's part-time, they meet 3-4 times in a year, do what they have to do, conclude the proceedings, and shift the documents to government, rather than taking all these resources every day from our government. Some people there were past governors. He's receiving money as a former governor on retirement. He's receiving money as a serving senator or House of Rep member. He also wants to put retirement benefit for senators. So he's collecting all these things. So politics becomes so attractive. Everybody wants to be there. And in fact, if you don't belong to any political caucus in Nigeria, it's like you're not part of the national.
You know that they are also contractors.
Yes, they're also contractors. They do all these things. What is it about these constituency projects? What is it about that? So all these things are avenues through which we should have cut down on government expenditures and fund industries so that people can have jobs. And then secondly, if government doesn't provide jobs, then you're creating room for young people to be susceptible to being recruited as militants or armed robbers or kidnappers, because they don't have jobs and they need something to do. So if we're able, the more we reduce unemployment, the more we reduce armed violence, whether you like it or not. It's clear. And then secondly, I want to look at thirdly now, I want to look at the involvement of communities. Communities, this thing we're talking about, infrastructure. Like the World Bank used to say, poor people are not begging you for, they're looking for opportunities.
They're not begging you for bridges.
They're begging you for opportunities, infrastructure, so that they can develop themselves. They're not in competition with you. So if you cannot provide the basic amenities that are needed in rural communities, like water, good road,
earth roads, not good roads, earth roads,
motorable roads, because the farm produce needs to go to where it will be sold.
Yes.
They need to have movement. They need to have dignity of life and all that. If those things are not in place, and then there's talking about national orientation and all that, this get rich quick attitude of young people needs to be corrected, because they are channeling their energy into something that is very dangerous for them. Those days growing up, you don't know now. How can you wake up in the morning and these days some people are in school paying their catering for their parents through whatever they're doing.
Yes.
Parents cannot even talk to them anymore. So we need
They're breadwinners.
We need that orientation for the populace, but we need to provide infrastructure for the populace. Okay. We need to de-emphasize on political offices, make it less attractive, and channel the resources to industries so that people can have jobs and reduce this. And then religion, please, religious leaders, pastors, imams, begin to tell young people that it is wrong. It is wrong. Some of these things they are doing are wrong.
Okay. Now let's agree. Dr. Mato has said it, and you mentioned it earlier, that this problem is surmountable.
Yes.
You agree?
Yes, I agree.
Okay. And then if we work towards it,
yes,
we can reduce
if we do this set of activities, let government do this, do that, let individuals do this, and then we have
okay. I must thank you, Honorable Roger, for coming on this program. Are you still willing in going into politics again? Because you contested.
Let's watch it.
I must thank you for coming on the program and for all that you have said. We've come a long way, and I appreciate you for answering us. Well, this is where we call it a date on the program, the Polity, this afternoon. I'll be back at 8 p.m. for Matters Arising, and the Polity will be back tomorrow with another edition, with another topic. Good afternoon.